God, please have mercy on me. Please. No.
Welcome to
No.
Chary Story Hub. If you love emotional, inspiring, and life-changing stories like this one, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story. Your support helps this channel grow and bring more meaningful stories to life. Sarah died in the process of giving birth to Christina. Sarah was Mama Grace's only child. Christina was well raised by her godly grandmother, Mama Grace. From the time she was a baby, she learned to love God, say her prayers, and be kind to everyone she met. Mama Grace taught her that a good name was better than gold, and Christina truly believed it. She was happy with her life, her curly hair in a neat bun, and the simple things she had. But as she grew older, the world outside began to whisper. She started to see things she had never seen before, girls with fancy clothes, shiny phones, and shoes that cost more than a month of food. At 19, Christina was ready to start her new life at the university. She had her bags packed and a heart full of hope. But the school was big, loud, and full of fake and expensive people. She met Sophia, a girl who walked like she owned the whole world. Sophia had everything, the clothes, the money, and the smile that could trick anyone. Christina watched her and felt a strange tug in her heart. She was tired of being the girl who had enough. She wanted to be the girl who had everything. That was the moment her life began to shift, and the world of easy money began to call her name. Christina lived in a small, quiet house with her grandmother, Mama Grace. From the moment she was born, she knew nothing but love and faith. Mama Grace was a woman of prayer who believed that God was the most important person in their lives. Every morning, before the sun came up, Christina would wake up to the sound of her grandmother's soft voice whispering prayers. They would kneel together on the wooden floor, their hands folded tight, asking God to guide their steps and keep their hearts pure. For Christina, those early hours were the best part of the day. She felt safe, wrapped in a blanket of love and peace that she thought would last forever. Life was simple, but it was full of joy. Christina did not have many toys or fancy dresses, but she did not mind. She spent her days helping Mama Grace in the garden, planting seeds and watching them grow into beautiful flowers. Mama Grace taught her that just like a flower needs water and light to grow, a person needs prayer and kindness to shine. Christina grew up to be a girl who loved the truth. Her dark skin glowed with health, and her expressive brown eyes always looked at the world with wonder. She kept her curly black hair pulled back in a neat bun, which made her look like the smart, studious girl she was. Everyone in their small village knew her as the girl who was always ready to help and quick to share a smile. Every evening, they would sit on the small porch and read the Bible together. Mama Grace would explain the stories with a gentle voice, teaching Christina that true wealth was not found in money or things, but in a heart that loved God. Christina, her grandmother would say, looking deep into her eyes, the world will try to tell you that you need more. They will show you shiny things and tell you that you are not enough without them. But do not listen to those whispers. You are a child of the Most High, and you already have everything you need in your heart. Christina would nod, truly believing that her simple life was the greatest treasure she could ever own. On Sundays, the house was filled with music. They would walk to the little church in the village, Christina holding her grandmother's hand tightly. She loved to hear the songs, and she loved the way the people welcomed them. She felt like she belonged there, safe and sound. During these years, Christina learned to value honesty, hard work, and kindness. She was the best student in her class, not because she wanted to show off, but because she wanted to use her mind to do good things. She was innocent, and her heart was open to all the goodness in the world. She often helped Mama Grace cook for the neighbors or take medicine to the sick. She saw how happy her grandmother was when she gave, and that made her happy too. There was no room for jealousy or greed in their home. They lived with what they had, and they were thankful for every bite of food and every breath they took. Christina never felt like she was missing out on anything. She had her grandmother, she had her faith, and she had a future that felt as bright as the morning sun. As she turned 19, she looked at the life she had built and felt a sense of pride. She was going to university soon, and she promised Mama Grace that she would stay the same girl she had always been. She promised that no matter where she went, she would keep her Bible close and her prayers even closer. Mama Grace hugged her tight, with tears in her eyes, and told her that she was ready for the world. Christina believed her. She stepped out of that house with a heart full of God's love, not knowing that the world she was about to enter was very different from the one she had left behind. She was ready to be a light, but she had no idea how quickly that light would be tested by the shadows that were waiting in the halls of the university. The day Christina left for the university was a day of mixed feelings. The morning air felt crisp and new, just like the future that was waiting for her. She had her small suitcase packed with her simple clothes and her worn-out Bible right on top. Mama Grace was busy in the kitchen, but her movements were slower than usual. Every time she looked at Christina, a sad, loving smile crossed her face. The house that had always been full of their soft prayers now felt a little too quiet. It was time for Christina to step out, but the thought of leaving the only home she had ever known made her heart feel heavy. Before they left for the bus stop, Mama Grace called Christina into the small living room. She sat down on her favorite chair and pulled Christina close to her knees. She took Christina's hands in hers and looked at her with eyes that had seen so much of life. "My sweet girl," Mama Grace began, her voice shaking just a little. "You are going to a place where many people do not know the path of the Lord. You will meet many different faces and hear many different voices. Some of them will be kind, but others will try to pull you toward things that do not honor your spirit. Remember who you are. Do not be in a hurry to grow up or to own things that do not matter. The world will try to change you, but you must keep your eyes on God. If you feel lost, remember the prayers we said in this room. Stay humble, stay true, and never forget where you came from. Money can come and go, but the grace of God is the only thing that will never leave you." Christina listened to every word, feeling the weight of the advice in her soul. She nodded, promising her grandmother that she would carry these words like a treasure. She did not want to let Mama Grace down, and she wanted to make her proud in every way. After one last, long hug, they headed out to the road. The journey felt like a dream. As the bus started to move, Christina watched her grandmother's small figure getting smaller and smaller until she disappeared from view. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she quickly wiped it away. She was excited, too. This was her chance to learn, to grow, and to show the world the girl Mama Grace had raised. When she finally arrived at the university gate, her eyes went wide. Everything was so big and busy. Students were walking everywhere, laughing, talking on their phones, and wearing clothes that looked like they had come straight from a magazine. The buildings were tall and made of shiny glass. It was nothing like a quiet village. Christina felt a little nervous, but she held her chin up. She walked toward the registration hall, feeling like she was stepping into a completely different world. She knew she was here to study hard and do her best, and she prayed silently that God would help her find her way. The excitement of new beginnings buzzed in the air, and for the first time, Christina felt like a woman standing on the edge of a great, wide ocean, ready to dive in. The university felt like a place where dreams were made, but it also felt like a place where dreams could change very fast. After Christina moved into her small dorm room, she realized she was very different from the other girls. They talked about parties, expensive hair, and clothes that cost more than Mama Grace's rent. Christina tried to focus on her books, but the noise of the campus made it hard. One afternoon, while she was sitting in the library, a girl walked up to her. This was Sophia. She was tall, beautiful, and wore a dress that shimmered under the lights. She smelled like flowers and expensive soap. Sophia smiled, but it was a smile at her. "You look like you are carrying the weight of the whole world," Sophia said with a laugh. She sat down next to Christina and looked at her plain clothes. You are new, right? You should let me take you shopping. You have a pretty face, but you need the right things to make it pop. Christina felt shy. She remembered the day Mama Grace sat her down in their small living room before she left home. Mama Grace had gripped her hands tight and said, "Christina, my child, the world out there is shiny, but not everything that shines is gold. People will try to buy your time and your trust with pretty things. Do not let your heart be caught by the glitter of the world. Keep your feet on the ground and your head held high in the truth of God's word." Christina tried to hold on to those words, but Sophia was very charming and looked so friendly, and her smile was too attractive to reject. She said, "Christina, hope you don't mind taking you out for a shopping." Christina said okay as she smiled back at her. She took Christina to a big mall near the campus. Christina had never seen so many things in one place. Sophia picked out a bright, tight dress and held it up to Christina. "Look at this," Sophia whispered. "If you wear this, you will feel like a queen." Christina looked in the big mirror. She did see a different girl looking back. She saw her dark skin and brown eyes, but she also saw how much she looked like a country girl. She started to feel a strange hunger in her heart. She wanted to look like Sophia. The funny part is they just met. She wanted to feel the power that came with wearing clothes that cost a lot of money. Christina is such a naive girl that does not know anything about life except for church. In one moment all the morals Mama Grace taught her vanished from her memory. All she could think of was all the love a stranger is showing her by buying her a dress and taking her out. Sophia told her all about the parties she went to and the men who paid for her dinners. She talked about money as if it were water that you could just pour whenever you were thirsty. Christina listened, and for the first time, she felt a little bit ashamed of her simple life. She remembered her old clothes and her plain bun, and she thought they were boring. She began to think that maybe Mama Grace was just trying to protect her from a world that wasn't actually bad. Maybe the world was just exciting. "Don't be scared," Sophia said, noticing Christina's hesitation. "Life is too short to just study and pray. You have to enjoy the beauty while you are young." Christina nodded, but her heart felt a little cold. She was standing in the mirror, and she liked what she saw, even if it didn't feel quite right. She began to think that maybe, just maybe, she could have it all. She could have her faith, but she could also have the expensive life that Sophia had. She did not understand the world was entering, but she just wanted to explore. She was taking her first step away from the path Mama Grace had built for her in her first month in the university, and she left the mall that day carrying a new bag, but inside, she felt like she was losing the girl she used to be. The days at university started to blur together. Christina found herself spending less time in her room and more time in the busy, loud halls where Sophia liked to hang out. Before she had left home, Mama Grace had sat her down in their little living room, held her hands firmly, and said, "Christina, the world will pull you in many directions. When you get busy, you might feel like you do not have time for the things that really matter. But promise me this, never let your time with God be the first thing you give up. If you stop talking to Him, you will lose your way, and the world will lead you down a path that ends in tears." Christina remembered those words every night, but the memories were starting to feel very far away. She used to have a routine. She would wake up early to read her Bible and pray for strength. But now, she was often tired from staying out late with Sophia. She would wake up late, rush to her classes, and feel too busy to open her book. She told herself that she would read it later, but later never seemed to come. The Bible, which was once the most important thing in her bag, stayed at the bottom, hidden under new clothes and makeup kits that Sophia had helped her buy. Esther, her roommate, was a girl who truly loved the Lord, and she would often ask Christina to join her for a short prayer before bed. At first, Christina said yes, but soon, she started making excuses. She would say she was too tired, or that she had too much homework to do. Esther would look at her with kind, worried eyes, but Christina would just turn away and put on her headphones. She felt a little guilty, but she pushed that feeling down. She did not want to feel bad, she just wanted to feel like she belonged in the new world Sophia was showing her. Sophia was always planning things for them to do. There were coffee dates, shopping trips, and parties where everyone talked about money and how to get more of it. Christina realized that when she was with Sophia, she did not have to think about her grandmother's warnings or the quiet life she had left behind. She felt modern and important. She stopped going to the Bible study group that met on Thursday nights, choosing instead to go get dinner with Sophia at an expensive restaurant. She loved the way the waiters treated them, and she loved the feeling of being one of the girls who had everything. Her heart felt a little empty, but she covered it up with pretty clothes and long talks with Sophia. She was trading her spiritual peace for a little bit of fun. Whenever she thought of Mama Grace, she would quickly look at her new phone or plan her next outfit so she wouldn't have to think about the promises she had broken. She was moving further and further away from the girl who used to kneel on the floor in prayer. She was becoming a girl who lived for the moment, and she didn't realize that by neglecting her faith, she was losing her only anchor. Her life was becoming a house built on sand, and the foundation was starting to crack, even if she couldn't see it yet. She was so busy trying to fit in that she didn't notice she was slowly walking away from the light. Mama Grace called her always, to know how she was doing and also advise, but sometimes she could lie that she is in class or Bible study just to avoid her advice. The excitement of campus life had changed Christina, but the biggest change was still to come. One rainy Tuesday, Sophia invited Christina to a place she had never been before. It was a beautiful, tall house in the middle of the city, surrounded by high walls and fancy cars. Sophia told her that they were going to meet a very special lady named Madame Vanessa. She is a mentor, Sophia explained, her voice low and full of mystery. She knows how to make life easy for girls like us. She has helped so many people get rich, and she can help you too. As they walked inside, the smell of expensive flowers hit Christina's nose. The house was beautiful and full of expensive things, and everything looked like a movie. Madame Vanessa was sitting in a large chair, looking like a queen. She was wearing a silk dress and lots of expensive jewelry. She looked at Christina with eyes that seemed to see right through her. Christina felt a sudden shiver go down her spine. She remembered the day in the small, quiet living room back home. Mama Grace had held her hands and looked into her eyes with so much love. Christina, her grandmother had whispered, the world is full of people who will try to use you. They will offer you velvet traps, things that look soft and sweet on the outside but are made to catch you. Do not let your heart be sold for silver or gold. Stay far away from people who promise you things you have not worked for. If it seems too easy, my child, it is usually a lie. Christina stood there, feeling the weight of those words, but then she looked at Sophia. Sophia looked so happy, so free, and so rich. Madame Vanessa stood up and walked over to Christina. She touched her shoulder and said, "You are a very beautiful girl. Why are you living such a small life? With your face and your style, you could be living in a palace instead of a small dorm room." Christina felt her heart race. She didn't want a small life anymore. She wanted the comfort, the beauty, and the power that Madame Vanessa was talking about. She felt like she was standing on the edge of a great cliff, and the fall looked like it would be soft and full of money. Madame Vanessa began to talk about how she could help Christina find connections. She talked about men who were very wealthy and who were looking for young, beautiful girls to treat like royalty. She made it sound like a game where everyone won. She promised that if Christina listened to her, she would never have to worry about school fees, rent, or cheap clothes ever again. It was a velvet trap, just as Mama Grace had warned. It was soft to the touch, but it was designed to keep her from ever leaving. Christina should have walked out the door. She should have run back to her room, prayed to God, and called her grandmother. But the greed was growing in her heart, louder than any prayer. She looked at the expensive rings on Madame Vanessa's fingers and felt that she deserved that life. She forgot about the simple joy of the garden and the peace of the Bible. She allowed herself to be pulled into a conversation about things she didn't fully understand. She didn't know that she was signing away her future for a few moments of luxury. She left the house that night feeling like a star, but she was really walking deeper into a forest where the light of God was starting to go out. The change did not happen all at once, but it happened in small, quiet steps that made it easy to ignore the truth. A few days after meeting Madame Vanessa, a young man arrived at the university campus where Christina lived in an expensive car. He handed Christina a large, fancy bag. Inside, she found a pair of expensive leather shoes and a dress that looked like it cost more than her entire school fees. There was a small note inside that said, "For a girl who deserves to shine." Christina's heart beat fast as she pulled the clothes out. They were beautiful, and they were hers. She had never owned anything like this in her life. She put on the dress and looked in the mirror, feeling like a completely different person. She looked rich, and for the first time, she felt like she finally belonged to the world of girls like Sophia. However, with the gift came a price she did not see at first. Madame Vanessa called her that evening. Her voice was sweet. She told Christina that these were just the beginning, but she needed to be smart. She told Christina that she should not talk about where these things came from. "People are jealous, my dear," Madame Vanessa warned. "If you tell anyone, they will try to take your luck away. Just keep our little friendship a secret, and you will have a life that most girls only dream about." Christina agreed. It felt easy to stay quiet. She told herself that it was just a secret between friends, and there was no harm in being careful. She was trading her honesty for designer items, one piece at a time. As the days passed, more gifts arrived. Bags, jewelry, and expensive makeup filled her room. Every time she accepted a gift, she felt a little more trapped, but she ignored the feeling. She spent more time with Sophia, showing off her new style and enjoying the attention she got on campus. When Esther asked her where she got such expensive things, Christina lied. She told her a story about an uncle who was a businessman. The lie came out so easily that it scared her for a moment, but then she pushed the fear away. She was too busy enjoying the feeling of being admired. She felt like a queen, but she was really just a girl selling her piece for things that could not love her back. Mama Grace's words were still in her mind, but she hid them behind a wall of excuses. Before she left home, Mama Grace had sat her down in their small living room, held her hands firmly, and said, "Christina, my child, the world will try to buy your spirit with things that glitter. They will give you gifts that feel like blessings, but you must know the price of every single thing you accept. If a gift asks you to lie, or to hide, or to be someone you are not, then it is not a gift, it is a chain. Do not trade your truth for anything, because once you start, it is very hard to stop." Christina ignored the memory of her grandmother's voice. She kept taking the gift, telling herself that it was just a little help. She thought she was being smart, but she was only digging a deeper hole for herself. She realized that every time she accepted something from Madame Vanessa, she lost a little bit of her own voice. She couldn't tell the truth to Esther, she couldn't tell the truth to her family, and she couldn't even tell the truth to herself. She was living in a beautiful cage, and she had built it with her own hands. The designer items were pretty, but they were heavy, and every time she looked at herself in the mirror, she felt the weight of the secrets she was carrying. She was becoming a master of silence, and she had no idea how much that silence would eventually cost her. She had chosen the path of the world, and she was already starting to pay the price in her own heart. Michael was a quiet, hardworking student who attended the same campus fellowship as Christina. He had known her since her first week at the university, back when she always carried her Bible and wore a warm, natural smile. He admired her kindness and her dedication to her faith. Lately, however, he noticed that she was becoming a stranger. Her clothes were flashy, her hair was styled in ways that didn't look like her, and she always seemed to be in a rush. One afternoon, he saw her walking with Sophia, laughing loudly at something that didn't sound like the Christina he used to know. He decided that he had to speak to her, even if it made her angry. He found her by the campus relaxation center, checking her reflection in her phone. "Christina," he said, his voice gentle but serious. She looked up, and for a second, she looked surprised to see him. "It has been a long time since I saw you at the fellowship. We all miss your prayers and your help. Is everything alright? You seem different lately." Christina felt a sudden prick of annoyance. She didn't want to be judged by someone who was still living that boring life. She pulled her expensive designer bag closer to her side and forced a cold smile. "I am just busy, Michael," she replied, trying to sound busy and important. "I have new friends and new plans now. The old stuff just doesn't fit my life anymore." Michael didn't move. He looked at her with eyes that were full of real concern. He remembered how she used to talk about her grandmother and the lessons she had learned at home. "Christina, please listen to me," he continued. "I see the way you are changing, and it scares me. People around campus are talking, and they are saying things about the people you are hanging out with. You are a child of God, and you have so much value. You don't need all these flashy things to be someone important. Please, come back to the group. We want to help you." His words felt like a sharp needle against her pride. She felt the ghost of Mama Grace's warnings in her mind, but she pushed them away with anger. She didn't want help, she wanted to be rich and admired. "You don't know anything about my life," Christina snapped, her voice rising. "Stop acting like you are my father. I am not a child anymore, and I don't need your advice. Go find someone else to bother with your religion." She turned on her heel and walked away, her new shoes clicking loudly on the pavement. She walked toward Sophia, who was waiting for her with a smirk. As she walked, her heart was pounding, and her hands were shaking. She had been mean to a good person, but she told herself it was necessary. Michael was just trying to pull her back to a life she didn't want to live. She felt a deep gap growing between her and the people who actually loved her. It was a chasm, wide and dark, and she was on the other side of it now. She realized that by choosing the easy money and the flashy lifestyle, she was leaving behind every single person who cared about her soul. She looked back for a moment and saw Michael still standing there, looking sad, and she felt a sharp pain in her chest. She quickly turned away and started talking to Sophia about their next party, pretending that she didn't care. She was alone, but she was too proud to admit it. She had pushed away the lights, and now she was stepping deeper into the dark, where she hoped no one would notice how lost she truly was. The deeper Christina went, the less she recognized the girl she used to be. Sophia told her it was time to meet the people who really run things. One evening, she drove Christina to a high-end restaurant with golden lights and soft music. There, she introduced her to Mr. Raymond. He was a wealthy businessman with a cold, sharp look in his eyes and a smile that never reached his face. He sat at the head of the table, sipping a drink that cost more than Mama Grace's entire farm. He looked at Christina like he was inspecting a new piece of jewelry. "So, this is the girl I have heard so much about," he said, his voice deep and smooth. Christina felt a strange knot in her stomach, but she forced a smile. She was wearing a dress Madame Vanessa had given her, and she felt like she had to play the part. Mr. Raymond didn't talk about school or books. He talked about power, expensive vacations, and how he could make any girl's dreams come true if she was smart enough to be loyal. Every word he said was like a lure in the water. He didn't ask for her heart or her friendship, he asked for her time and her silence. Christina watched him and felt a dark shadow fall over her spirit. She knew in her heart that this was the moment she should stand up and walk out of the restaurant, but she was trapped by the promise of the lifestyle she had begun to crave. Sophia was watching her, waiting for a sign of approval. "Mr. Raymond can change your life, Christina," Sophia whispered in her ear. Think of the freedom. Think of the things you can buy. All you have to do is be his guest at his private events. The words, private events, made Christina hesitate, but the hunger for more clothes, more attention, more status, was much stronger than her fear. She looked at Mr. Raymond and realized she was no longer in control. She remembered Mama Grace's warning about velvet traps and the price of silence, but the memory was now a faint, muffled sound, like a voice underwater. She was too deep to turn back. She accepted a glass of wine she didn't want and started to laugh at Mr. Raymond's jokes. She didn't realize that she was losing the most precious thing she possessed, her dignity. She had traded her godly upbringing for a seat at a table of wolves. As the night went on, the laughter felt empty and the lights seemed to dim. She was at the point of no return, and for the first time, she felt a cold, sharp fear that she had sold her soul for a life that was nothing but a beautiful lie. The trap had fully snapped shut, and she was left wondering how she had let it get this far. The life Christina had chosen began to show its true, ugly face. After that first night with Mr. Raymond, the private events became a dark, recurring cycle. She was no longer just a student, she was a body for sale, moved from hotel room to private villa to satisfy men who cared nothing for her dreams or her future. She belonged to them now, sold by Madame Vanessa to the highest bidder. Christina had been with Mr. Raymond many times, and each time he paid her, she felt a little more of her soul wither away. Madame Vanessa was no longer a helpful mentor, she became a cold, strict manager who demanded a cut of every payment. If Christina hesitated or looked unhappy, Vanessa would remind her that her expensive clothes, her phone, and her tuition were all on loan, and could be stripped away if she didn't perform her duties in the bedroom. Christina began to lose touch with who she really was. She looked at her reflection and saw a face painted with thick, heavy makeup to hide the exhaustion in her eyes. The girl who used to enjoy the morning sun in her grandmother's garden was gone, replaced by a ghost who lived in fear, silence, and shame. She could no longer remember the last time she had opened her Bible or felt the peace of a true prayer. Every day felt like a cruel performance. She had to dress in revealing clothes, smile for men she despised, and endure their touch, all while her heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces. The mask she wore was slipping, and she was terrified. She tried to reach out to Esther, but every time she looked at her old roommate, the memory of what she had just done with Mr. Raymond made her feel sick with shame. She felt like she was covered in a filth that no amount of scrubbing could remove. One evening, after returning from a long, draining night at a hotel with Mr. Raymond, Christina collapsed on her bed. She looked at her expensive designer clothes, which were piled up on her chair like a mountain of lies. They did not make her look like a queen anymore, they were the price of her own body, and they made her feel like a prisoner. She realized that she had no real friends, no real peace, and no real future. She was a woman who sold her intimacy for profit, trapped in a network that viewed her as nothing more than a toy. She started to cry, but the tears felt cold. She realized that she had been so busy chasing the shadow of wealth that she had lost her true self. She had tried to buy her way into a better life, but she had only succeeded in trading her dignity for a life of exploitation. She was trapped, and the walls of her own choices were closing in on her. She wondered if Mama Grace was still praying for her, but she felt too unworthy to even whisper the name of God. She had traded her purity for a lie, and the mask had finally slipped, revealing a girl who was lost, scared, and completely alone in the dark. The night of the reckoning was dark and scary. Madame Vanessa told Christina she had to go to a secret house far away in the woods. Christina wanted to say no, but she was afraid of what Vanessa would do. When they got there, the room was full of shadows and strange, burning candles. Mr. Raymond was standing in the middle of the room. He had a mean look on his face. Christina realized this was not a party. She heard him talking about blood and money. She finally understood that he did not just want her body, he wanted to use her life to get more riches. Her heart beat so fast it hurt. She looked for a door to run out of, but they were all locked tight. Mr. Raymond walked toward her with a sharp, silver knife that shined in the candlelight. "You have been an investment, Christina," he said with a mean laugh. "But tonight, you will help me get even more money. Your life is going to make me very rich." Christina felt so scared she could hardly breathe. She saw that everything she had given up, her respect and her peace, had led her to this bad moment. She was not a person to them. She was just a thing they wanted to destroy. She knew she had to run or she would die. When Mr. Raymond reached out to grab her, Christina threw a heavy glass vase at his head. He fell back, and she ran as fast as she could to the balcony. She did not think about what to do, she just knew she had to get away. The balcony was very high up, and below there was only hard, cold ground. She could hear the men running after her, yelling for her to stop. She did not have a choice. Christina closed her eyes and jumped off the balcony into the dark night. She fell down, 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 until she hit the ground with a loud crash. Pain went through all her bones. She tried to stand up, but her legs hurt too much. She crawled on the dirt, trying to get away from the big house. But she was too hurt, and her strength was gone. She heard the men running out onto the balcony above her. Her eyes started to close. She fainted on the cold ground. Her breathing was very slow. She was broken and alone in the dark. Christina woke up in a room that smelled like medicine. She was not at the scary house anymore. She was in a hospital bed with machines that went beep, beep all the time. Her head hurt very badly, and her whole body felt weak. A doctor in a white coat walked into the room. He looked very sad. He did not smile at all. Christina tried to sit up, but her hands shook too much. She looked at her arms. They were thin and pale. She was not the healthy girl who used to play in the garden with Mama Grace anymore. "Christina," the doctor said in a quiet, soft voice. He pulled a chair close to her bed. "I have the results of your test. I am so sorry, but your body is very sick. Because of the things you were exposed to while living that life, you have contracted HIV and some other very serious chronic infections. Your body is not strong enough to fight them off." He told her that she would have a lot of pain and that the medicine might not be enough to save her. Christina felt like the whole world was crashing down. She looked at her face in the dark window. She looked like a ghost. Then, the doctor looked down at his papers. "There is something else," he said slowly. "The police called while you were still unconscious. Your friend Sophia is dead. She went to a hotel with a rich man. She tried to steal money from him after they were together. The man was very dangerous, and he killed her. Sophia is dead, and the man has escaped, though the police is still searching for the man." Christina let out a loud, shaky cry. She could not believe it. Sophia, who had always seemed so smart and so rich, was gone. They had walked this dark path together, and now Sophia had paid the highest price. Christina realized that her fun life had a very high price for both of them. All the parties, all the pretty clothes, and all the lies had led them to this terrible end. She had traded her health, her peace, and her future for a few months of fake happiness. She took a shaky breath, and tears ran down her cheeks. The machines kept making their beep, beep sound. The doctor patted her hand and walked out. Christina stared at the ceiling. She thought about the day she left her grandmother's house. She had been so proud. She thought she could play with the world and win. But the world had played with them instead. It had taken Sophia's life and was now taking hers. She realized that the easy money was the most expensive thing she ever took. It cost her everything. She was left alone with only her pain and the memory of her friend who was gone forever. The hospital room was quiet and full of soft light. Mama Grace sat by the bed, her face full of tears. She held Christina's thin, cold hand and prayed in a soft, steady voice. Beside her sat Sister Ruth, a kind woman from their church who had traveled a long way to be there. Sister Ruth's voice was calm as she read from the Bible. Christina looked at them, feeling a deep, aching sadness. She knew the doctors could not help her anymore. Her body was tired, and the infection was too strong. She had reached the end of her road. She thought about her simple, small room at home. She remembered how she used to dream of a better life. She had thought that Sophia's life was the best. She had wanted the fancy clothes and the easy money. Now, she saw the truth. That love for money had been a heavy chain. It had pulled her away from her grandmother, away from God, and away from her own life. She had traded the love of God for gold that could not save her. She had chosen the world's glitter over the peace of her heart. "Grandmother," Christina whispered, her voice barely a sound. "I am so sorry. I let the world trick me. I thought I could have it all, but I lost everything. I lost Sophia, and I lost my own self." Mama Grace squeezed her hand tighter, her eyes full of love. "God is always ready to hear you, my child," she whispered back. "He knows your heart, and He knows you are coming home to Him. It is not about the things you did, it is about the love He has for you." Those words felt like cool water to a thirsty person. For the first time in a long time, the heavy, dark feeling in Christina's chest began to lift. She looked at her designer bag sitting in the corner of the room. They looked like nothing to her now, just old rags and plastic. She looked at Sister Ruth, who was praying for her peace, and she felt a deep joy that no money could ever buy. She finally understood that wealth was never the price. The prize was a clear heart and a life lived in the light of the truth. She closed her eyes and began to pray, her own voice joining theirs. She asked for forgiveness for her greed and for the pride that had blinded her. She felt the presence of God in the room, warm and steady, holding her even as her own strength faded away. The bitter harvest was over. In these final moments, she was no longer a girl who loved money. She was once again the simple, prayerful girl who belonged to God. She took a long, soft breath, finally at peace, and let go of the world that had promised her everything and given her nothing. She went home to God, safe and free at last. Thanks for watching, and remember this: chasing material wealth and status at the cost of your values and integrity is a dangerous path that leads to destruction. True peace and worth cannot be bought, and the pursuit of easy money often demands a price that ultimately costs you everything, including your identity, your health, and your life. It serves as a reminder that staying true to your roots and your faith is the only real foundation for a life of purpose. And if you find this story helpful, kindly like, subscribe and turn on your notification bell, and remember, Jesus loves you.